We've got one last guest on the show. I'm delighted to say he's with us now. Certainly not 50 Shades of Grey there. Jamie Dornan, welcome on the show.
Hello, mate. How you doing?
Very good to see you, mate. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us today. We've been sticking with sport generally, but we've dabbled now into screen. The first thing I want to ask you is, well, I went on your Instagram page yesterday, Jamie. It's like 2 million people there, and I just thought having 2 million people watch your every move would be cool for about 20 minutes, and then frustrating at what the press all the time and the constant judgment. Now, in our sport, that's the world that Rory McIlroy lives in. That's the world that Koepka lives in. That's definitely the world that Tiger Woods lives in. How difficult is it separating personal life and your life from your working persona, which is for these guys is what they're doing right now?
You know, if they were watching my every move, I obviously wouldn't be comfortable with that. But you obviously curate what you put out there, and I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with it. I used to be on Instagram years ago, and then I left it for about 4.5 years, and only during lockdown did I get sort of bored into submission, and I found myself back on there. And I kind of feel that maybe when lockdown finishes, I might get off it again. I feel like it's just this sort of thing to, you know, to help fill the time during this period. But yeah, I mean, it's a very personal thing, isn't it? Really, how much you want to reveal about yourself, about your approach to the sport you play, or the whatever the craft is you do in the arts or whatever. Some people, and I was one of those people, thought it's better not to know too much and not let people in too much into what your process is, or how you go about your day and how you approach your work. But you know, people change, and you know, one day you could feel like letting people in, and the next you don't. And I think that's it, you control it. At the end of the day, it's up to you what you put out there, and you sort of, you know, live by the sword, die by the sword. I think in terms of what you put out there, and it backfires sometimes for these guys. You know, they get a lot of heat for stuff they post. So yeah, but I think it's up to you really.
Now, obviously, folks at home will obviously know you very well from 50 Shades of Grey and the 50 Shades films, but also from The Fall, which obviously did particularly well, the series. But they might not know. Also, I got to say, they'll also know you from Trolls World Tour, because like you're the babe, like Jazz on Trolls World Tour. I got to say that from my kids. But they might not know that you're from the same hometown as Rory McIlroy. When did you first become aware in Hollywood of Rory McIlroy?
I like to say that he's from the same hometown as me rather than the other way around. I'm also 7 years older than him. I first became aware of him. So there's 2 golf clubs in Hollywood. There's Hollywood Golf Club and there's Royal Belfast. I have been a member of Royal Belfast since I was 9 or 10 years old. And when I was one of my best mates growing up was a member of Hollywood Golf Club. And I was up there when we were 16, 17, and there was all this stuff outside the pro shop, like, congratulations, Rory McIlroy, under 10 world champion. And I remember thinking, I mean, who, like, he's 10, like, let's not get carried away. 9-year-old kid, like, you know, very rarely do people who show promise. It's like acting, you know, not a lot of child actors end up making big careers beyond, you know, when they hit puberty, basically. So I sort of thought, you know, it happens in sport all the time. I said maybe people are getting carried away, and yeah, I was obviously pretty wrong. But I didn't meet Rory until the first Dunhill I played, which was 2014. So I finally got to meet him there.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy, and what a place Hollywood is as well. I was at that golf course just last year, just a great club, and I mean, what an altar to Rory that is. And when you go around it, you can see why he's such a great driver of the ball. So much internal out of bounds, super narrow off the tee, whipping his drive around there since he was a little lad. You can see how he drove it so well. He's won 18 times on the PGA Tour, you can see there, which is the most by any European player. He really has done it all. He comes in, Damon, as the world #1 on the back of great form, although how much will form mean anything at the moment? When you had 91 days off, is it sort of we all start from scratch again in terms of form?
It's going to be very interesting, isn't it? I think this is such an unusual time for every sports person. Lewis Hamilton was back in a car recently, just running at Silverstone, doing some warm-up stuff because the season is going to be coming back in July. And, you slot into it. But I think this has been such a huge gap for most sports people. I think with golf, at least you could practice. You can't practice an F1 car. They have simulators, but it's very difficult to get your hands on the real thing. And so they haven't been able to do that until recently. But I notice, extraordinary, the change in appearance of some of these drivers, these golfers. Bryson DeChambeau seems to have bulked up a bit, and Koepka as well.
Jamie, you must have had to change shape for movies. You must have had to do that. We see it all the time with actors for certain roles you have to play. It's a phenomenal... He looks more like Brooks Koepka now than Brooks Koepka does, to be honest, the size of Bryson, because he wasn't a big guy. He was a medium shirt. He's now an XL. How hard is it to put that sort of mass on for folks at home who maybe haven't tried that sort of a transformation?
I think it becomes about commitment, like many things in life. If you're willing to, have put the time in and really focus on it, you can achieve, pretty much anything, within reason. And, I think if you think it's going to be to the benefit of your work, for Bryson, it's to play better golf and hit the ball further, or for the likes of myself, if you're playing a character that is meant to be in great shape because of the vocation he has or whatever it is, you just do it. You just put the work in and do it, and it's not always fun, but if you feel that it's going to benefit what it is you're trying to achieve, then you just do it. It's just time and effort.
I think it might be a nice thing just to touch on with both of you. I think when people watch golf, they see this, and I do to a degree. I've become naive because I stand across some guys who are playing great golf all the time and just see wonderful golf, and it's so easy. And think, wow, what do you do? Oh, 63 today. Yeah, it was lovely. And you forget what it's like to really struggle. And the struggle to get there as well. First of all, to you, Damon, give us an idea about the sort of work and preparation, the hours that go into someone like Lewis, for instance, Lewis Hamilton, being and staying where he is.
I think it starts when they're very young. I think that they put in hours and hours. This whole business of 10,000 hours, I think, is definitely something in that. I think you have to have talent, but I think the fact that Lewis and the great drivers of today have been racing, and Ayrton as well, been racing since they were kids. So they've had so many hours of practice at what they do that it almost becomes automatic, and then they can move on to another level intellectually in their approach to what they're doing. So there's an awful lot. It's not like you're a concert pianist and you play 3 hours every day. There's time off. I think golfers probably put in much more time in doing what they do than racing drivers do. It seems still that I think Lewis tries not to burn himself out, so I don't think he tries to stay away from doing too much. I think Michael used to do a lot of karting practice, even when he was racing in his Michael Schumacher, when he was in his mid-career. So I think he put in the time just sharpening himself still in a go-kart.
Just a reminder, folks, that golf is coming. The full coverage comes on Sky Sports Golf at 9 o'clock, home in the UK and Ireland, in the United States on Golf Channel, 4 p.m, of course, with the time difference for you. That's full live coverage of today's event. Jamie, coming to you on that, when you accept a movie and you say, right, I'm all in, you sign up for a movie, how all-encompassing is that process from start to finish?
Yeah, it's usually takes a lot out of you. It's one of those, no matter, I think, actors are pretty much the most interviewed people on the planet, and yet people still seem to have no understanding of what it is we do and what it takes to make a TV series or make a movie, and how long the days are, and I'm not, that is just it. I deal with that all my life. People thinking you go in and you work for 2 hours a day and you go home and that's it. But it's from, depending on how much luxury of time you have before. Sometimes if you're flat out, go through situations where you go from movie to movie, and you don't get a lot of time off in between, and that's detrimental to every job you're going on to, because you often don't have the time to put the preparation in that you want to, but sometimes that's slightly out of your control. But usually you have a couple of months to prepare, and whether it's getting physical shape or do the research on a period of time that you're going to be representing in the movie, and you often have to speak to experts and find out as much information you can about the time and the people you're playing. If they're real people, you're contacting their family, you're trying to get every snippet of information that you can to try to make this character as real as possible when it comes time to it. So there's a lot goes into it, and then the days are, the days are 16, 17 hours usually from when you get picked up to when you go to bed, so it's pretty full on, and if you've got a young family, I have 3 kids under 7, it's tough, and that's been a nice aspect of lockdown actually, is having this time where I'm here all the time. They have their daddy at all times. They're very happy little girls, I have to say.
That seems to have been the theme we've heard from golfers as well, all interviewed about what they've been up to, what they've done. They've cherished that time at home with family. We saw Justin Thomas there going a couple under par through 2 holes. So we're actually now going to say goodbye to the folks watching with us on Twitter. Thanks for being with us. Hashtag PGA Tour Watchalong. We've enjoyed having your company, but Justin Rose leads the way. For Twitter, stick with us on TV. Randy? Yeah, I'm not to line, am I? Okay, I couldn't say to you, obviously, because we've been live the whole way through. I couldn't hear anything you were saying, dude. And at the... This must be a weird vibe, though, with crowds, Damon. The man who's going to find that hardest, and we're going to see him next week in Harbour Town, is going to be... How's that going to be for Tiger Woods? When do you reckon the last time he had a shot that wasn't in front of, this many people in a PGA Tour event? I mean, he's never known what this is going to feel like, really. Although, having said that, I suppose you could say the Zozo, that's what it was like. But this is the next 5 weeks of PGA Tour golf. 0 clapping from 0 fans.
Really strange, isn't it? I mean, I think, maybe you'll have to adopt the technique that we have in driving, because obviously with the crash helmet on, you can't hear the crowd. So you have to imagine that they're screaming for you and cheering for you.
It's just the weirdest vibe to think that they're not going to be there. But I suppose we've got to move on to the discussion. Jamie, for you as a golf fan, Ryder Cup, we don't know what's going to happen yet. Will it happen? Players seem to have been speaking out. The general consensus being Ryder Cup without fans isn't a Ryder Cup. As a fan, do you feel that? Or do you just want to watch Europe versus the United States? Do you want to look forward to that?
Listen, I'd love to look forward to it, but I'd want to look forward to it in the way that we know and love the Ryder Cup to be. I honestly just don't think I could get excited with the idea of there being no one there. It's, I mean, most of the players I think have spoken out and said something along the same lines. I think the odd tournament, and not trying to take anything away from a tournament like this, but the more regular PGA Tour events or European Tour events, maybe not having people there, it'll obviously take away from the experience, but not quite so much. I mean, the Ryder Cup is just made by the fans, and it feels different to the players as a result of the fans. They're lifted by the fans. It means so much more to the fans because they're supporting the continent, their nation, rather than just supporting individual players. So, for me, look, of course I'd watch it. We'd all watch it, but it wouldn't be the same.
Damon, I suppose interesting thing, I was talking about this with my producer. Out of all the sports we could think of, arguably the one that would have least impact on you as a performer, as the athlete, might be Formula One, in our naive opinion. Would that be true if you're a Formula One driver? Would 0 fans there, because they're all watching, it's not like they're not watching, there's so many fans for Formula One, but can you ever hear them or see them?
No, I honestly think these events that take place without the crowd are in years to come. People look back and go, can we really regard those as proper tests of the challenge? Because I think it is. We're realising how much of sport is actually the worship of those sporting events and the activity and the interaction between the fans and the performers. I think it's like going to the Colosseum and there not being any people in the a load of gladiators fighting each other with no one to watch them. It's ridiculous.
Jamie, you've had the opportunity, as Damon has, to play alongside these guys up at St Andrews, the tournament we go to every year. In fact, you've made the walk up the 18th with the champions on 2 occasions in Tyrrell Hatton. What's the bit for you that separates these guys from what you do?
Talent. With a golf club in your hand, I mean, it's like, it's consistency. I'm sure, we all have our days when you can hit shots and you feel like a pro, or close to, the ball does what you expect it to do, or in your dreams expect it to do. But the reality is that you do that. I play off 11, so I'm doing those sort of shots 30% of the time maybe, and the rest is hustling right and hooking left, and that's the reality. And I tell you what, it's so much more illuminated when you're playing with the likes of Tyrrell Hatton and walking up the 18th on a Sunday at St Andrews. It's you just do not want to be on television in that situation. You're just going, can I pick up my ball? I don't need to finish out the hole. We're out of the team tournament by this stage. Tyrrell's on course to win back-to-back Dunhills, and I just don't want to play golf anymore in front of people. But it's something else. It's an amazing experience.
It must be. But having said that, that could be changing for you. I heard that you've been doing more practice in lockdown than Rory McIlroy.